See if we're live. We'll double check.
Check it out. It's Corona time.
It is Corona time.
It's a beautiful day out.
If you're out there and you could hear us, let us know. Let's see. All right. So here we are. Everyone just give us 1 minute. Let's see if we're live. All right, so Mike, I think we can just assume that we're live here.
Are we live or
Are we live? Do people
Let me
see
see.
we're live? If you see us live, let us know that you see us. We're trying to work out the kinks. Oh, we got two viewers. We got two viewers.
All right? So we are live.
We
Great.
must be live.
All right.
It just hasn't picked up on our end yet. What's
Got it.
going on, everyone?
Hey guys.
How we doing today? We're so glad to be here with you. We got Mike visiting today.
Yep.
We're in an undisclosed location, and that's because we're going to be talking memes.
Yes, memes, and we're not talking about the joke memes that people share, and I do all the time. I love memes, but we're just talking about the real definition of a meme.
What was the first time you had ever seen a meme?
The first time I saw like a comical meme, maybe probably a couple years ago. I've been sharing those comical memes for a couple years now, so I'm sure like maybe like 7 years ago.
Yep.
And to me, honestly, I might sound like an idiot, but I thought a meme was that something comical, an image of a show or like a cartoon and some funny text, and that was it. That's what I thought a meme was until, recently, reading up, seeing videos, and I saw what a true meaning of a meme was, and it's pretty much, it's like it's a dialogue, it's a clip, it's a quote that is passed on non-genetically to the masses. So right now, if we're talking about this and we just mentioned this and someone was to grab this clip and pass it on generations to generations, that's a meme. Dr. Martin Luther King saying, I had a dream. That quote is a meme, and we continue to share that as we go on with generations. So why we want to talk about this? We want to talk about this because it's important to be able to protect free speech and these ideas, philosophies, conversations, writings, literature, so that future generations can see what people throughout different periods of time have thought, have come out with words and all of that. So that's why we're having this conversation.
One of the things that I find interesting is that memes have really, like you brought up the definition of a meme and what meme has even meant from a historical perspective, but a lot of people today know memes from social media, from trolling, from the funny picture and the caption. But what we've noticed through the last election, specifically in 2016, was that was the first time we had started to really see meme warfare and memes being used to their full extent to control the psyche and the feelings and emotions of a person. So, we see it and we make fun of them now on social media, but they're clearly a part of a political impact and also an impact on society. And, you and I believe that there's going to be a future with memes. I mean, I think memes are probably going to be used for propaganda going forward, for elections, for nation states to help control and sway minds of populations.
Yeah, it's definitely already happening. And, it's been the concept of what a meme is in traditional, literature and concepts is, is the sharing of a conversation or of an idea or anything, right? Like I just said, like, a quote from Martin Luther King or a quote from Aristotle. Those are memes, but now we're using it to another level. We're using it to either sway, persuade, um, as information warfare. We're doing all of that, propaganda. So with that, now you're starting to see a push of we have big tech, Google, Facebook, YouTube. They are all controlling the narrative, right? And with that, that means you could control memes. And if you want to go in depth, the memes that we share to this day, but also just conversation, and that's dangerous because then we are giving the power to a small few to control that narrative to what they want, so that generations later on would only see that narrative that they impose. So we are in the midst of this information warfare, and memes is one of the weapons. So I think that's something that we have to really look into.
Yeah, well, one of the things going forward is going to be I think is going to be the fight against the creation of memes. We know that, anything right now online can really be replicated. Documents can be replicated. But now with the inclusion of blockchain technology and privacy-focused projects on the blockchain, we're starting to see that there are these unique digital assets that exist. We are entering a period where everything in the physical world is being tokenized and being put online into the digital world. These new privacy-focused assets cannot be censored. They cannot be taken down. They cannot be de-anonymized. Someone could create a meme that's so powerful that it goes viral and it starts swaying the minds of the populace, and no government, no police department, no one entity can stop that. So I'm really interested in seeing things progress forward from the protection of memes through projects like WowNarrow. And I mean, we talk about crypto on here. Obviously, we've been promoting Bitcoin, obviously being the first cryptocurrency ever created. But one of the next most important projects that we've discussed here quite a bit is Monero, and privacy-focused coins and privacy-focused projects. And WowNarrow, for those that don't know, is a project that was just created from the Monero dev community, which has a goal of being able to allow people to create and mint memes that exist on a digital token that is on the Monero blockchain, which is the most private blockchain you could be on. So this is going to be kind of the battle. I think governments are going to have a hard time stopping these things, and people are going to keep putting them out.
Yeah, we need something like that because crypto is not just a form also of of protected decentralized currency in the digital form. It's also could be used to save files, artwork, anything that you want to protect, especially online. Seeing that anything could be replicated, like you just said, Joe. You could copy, like an email. I create an email and I could send it to 1 million people. Where it's replicated, right? But with a form of like crypto, you get something like WowNarrow, which literally it creates its own, its own currency or file that's saved and it's encrypted, and you could protect that. If you want to say something, a message to your great grandson, you could do that and protect that without anyone taking it down. So in a way, it's even a time capsule, you could say, and it's protected. So these are different things that we need to look at going forward, seeing that they're consolidating the internet or trying to, which is, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is a challenge. You could see the challenge that governments are having to try to do this. China does a pretty good job, trying to centralize it in a way, but, if you could see, their populace, they do magic when it comes to finding ways around it. So you could do, and we could talk about the dark web all day. That's another world. People don't even understand how deep the dark web is. So, yeah, man.
I think it's important. I had heard a presentation once on why trolls were important, why trolling is important, right? A lot of us in the digital world don't like trolls, right? Because they call us out on things and they question and they challenge our validations, right? And we kind of get upset at them when they come on and poke fun and question things in our narrative. But what they're really doing at a fundamental level, other than being annoying, is they're keeping people honest. if there wasn't the ability, and the reason that trolls really exist is because these individuals feel like they have to mask their identity in order to speak truthfully online and protect themselves. But if these people didn't exist to question the status quo and question the narrative that's being put out, who is, right? I mean, the freedom of speech at the end of that's a freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
And if no one's allowed to talk out against something, then you're really living in like a controlled society.
Yeah, you need naysayers. You need people to point out defects. You need people to, to challenge you. Same thing, right? We look at crypto again. I can mention, there's people that are going to say many negative things about the crypto world and cryptocurrency, and that's why cryptographers and people that are and miners and all of that type of stuff, hackers, they work really hard to make sure that they could, prove how great their art is, their software is, all of that. We just need that because we will have people that will come to put you to the test. And that's why, trolls are important. It sounds crazy. Oh, that's stupid. Is it stupid though? Go to CNN or go to Fox News and see let's say, look at the comment section. You'll see people saying all types of stuff, right? Crazy things, but sometimes people make good points and they'll point things out. You need that.
Yeah. How do you feel about the way that mainstream media or the news, the propaganda arm in the U.S. kind of manipulates people's minds on trolls and all these things? Because you talk about cryptographers needing to do this, like we hear, and we just talked about cryptocurrencies, because if you're the layman, if you're the average 9 to 5 person, you're just doing what you're supposed to be doing. You have some interest in Bitcoin or Monero, and what do you do typically? You turn on CNBC, right? Because that's just the mainstream financial news. But what you're hearing is that they're really giving disinformation, misinformation, scare tactics, and they're only pumping crypto when it's at its top, and they're telling people to buy at the top when they shouldn't be doing that. And I feel like it's the same thing I'm seeing right now with trolls, memes, or anyone that's questioning the current narrative of the status quo. The Nonconformist is us trying to bring awareness of this, but what do you think? What advice would you give to the layman that is watching TV and they may be hearing this messaging? Why is it important?
Mainstream media and the government and politics and everything a politician says, it's these are magicians. You have to look at them as magicians, right? These are like the David Copperfields of our present day. They present you something, and literally in the background they're doing something else. They're doing a card trick, and you're like, oh man, this guy is a magician. It's not a magician per se. It's that they're quick with what they're doing, and in the meantime they're doing something else you're not seeing. And that's how it's like it's 4D chess, literally. Right. It's 4D chess. When we're talking about CNBC, they're talking about crypto went up, and they're pumping it up positively. Why are they doing that? Are they doing that just because they're placing a light on it? Maybe. But at the same time, I'm thinking that they are 3-4 steps ahead. They want that to happen because it's like perfect example, Warren Buffett the other day, right?
Yeah.
He comes in now, he's invested in gold. And now the whole market's all focused, gold, because Warren Buffett said so. Yeah. Meanwhile, beforehand, he was brushing it off. Yeah. He wasn't even interested in gold. While other economists have been saying, invest in gold, diversify, protect your assets.
We were saying that.
Yeah, we've been saying this since last year.
Since gold was at $12.50 an ounce.
Yeah, we've been saying it. And silver was $11 an ounce. Yep. And now Warren Buffett jumps on the bandwagon and does tremendous shifts, and CNBC and everyone's just reporting on it, and it just, what it does, it hypes people up, right? Because now this supposed god of finance and stock markets and all of that is saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's dangerous when people look at a person like him. He's like a demigod to a lot of sheep, in my opinion. Right? Max Kaiser calls him overrated, and I believe so. A person like Warren Buffett's overrated. He puts value to things. Right. Those things probably didn't have value, but once he got on board, it did. Now gold is a different story. He's intelligent. He knows that gold is just it's a safe haven.
Right.
So he has to jump on board.
Right.
Is he jumping on board because he thinks it's smart? Yeah, but on top it's necessary. But going back to what you were saying, Joe, social media, the mainstream media, politics, government, they all try to shed light on things when it's to their benefit. That's how it is. So we need to look into the darkness. We need to illuminate our minds to see into the darkness, not to what they're shining, because they're not highlighting what needs to be. So
one of the recent episodes that we covered was talking about the rise in Robinhood trading and the fact that, as we refer to it, smart money had left the markets in around March, just as the Dow was dumping. All the pension fund managers, a lot of the hedge funds, a lot of the big money, what's referred to as smart money, was leaving the market, exiting the market as the Dow started to drop. This was from what we saw coming into 2020 of already being a really fragile, unstable economy. The Fed had started printing. They're inflating now, but they started last September. We covered a lot of that. And, a lot of it coming into this new year was trying to get people to understand that by the time you hear about it on CNBC, by the time you hear about it on the Today Show, by the time you hear about it on local mainstream news, you've already missed the boat.
Yeah, you probably even hear about it neither. Because, right? What happened with the repo markets in the last year, early beginning?
September.
The banking system was collapsing. And I bet a lot of people still to this day didn't know that happened.
Yep.
They didn't know.
Yep.
This was a serious situation. Trillions of dollars into the system. They started with billions per day. This is not billions throughout a whole period. No, per day to maintain the banking system. While we're in the background, we're worried about, Trump was sending assassination orders to, knock out the general from Iran out in Iraq. And behind the scenes, we're having a collapse in the banking system. Right? Nobody knew. Right? So these are the things that people need to know, because what if they did a bad job at that moment and there would have been a complete collapse? What would have happened? And that's the problem here. We need to know these things so that we are prepared as individuals. So our families are prepared, our friends, our community. We need to look at these things. Stop depending on government. Stop looking at the federal government. Stop looking at the world government, the UN, the WHO, the World Bank to save your asses, because they're not. They're not going to.
You have to worry about yourself at the end of the day.
Worry about yourself first, your family, your neighbors, the people in your community that are also your neighbors, like that. That's how we got to start thinking. We got to look from the nuclei and outward. If we look at, we look at them inward, it's never going to work. It's going to be a continued failure. And that's why, all of these things that we talk about, we are very passionate, because we think is a foundation for us to start, repairing, if we can, society. And it comes, if what's the macro is destroyed, but the micro isn't, then, we live in the micro. Let's make sure that the micro is taken care of. And that's what we have to try. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of work.
And our subscribers know this. We've had quite a bit of subscribers that have been following us since last September. And I've had friends that have texted me and said, I was glad I got in then before the market tanked, because the cards were already set. That's how this works, is that you need to be prepared before this actually takes place in the markets, because when it happens very dramatic, very quick, and you don't have time to reallocate your funds. You don't have time to go into your 401k portfolio as it's dropping, because you're not going to get that sell order on. Good luck getting through banks. It takes 3 business days, and then by then the market's already dropped 40% like it did last time.
And sometimes they shut down the market. They'll shut it down.
They had done that. They did this for the first time, I think, ever. They were hitting the red switch. Remember when it was dropping like 8,000 or 800 points, 1,000 points, 1,200 points? They were hitting the stock market. So now to finish up with Warren Buffett, though, this is a good example, because Warren Buffett now, what he said is that, because he's always been a value investor, right? He's always seen value in stocks, and he's always also downplayed gold, right? Well, what has he done now? Well, we knew that he had 100 last year. He sold out a lot of his stocks. He was sitting on $100 billion in cash, wasn't putting it anywhere. Now he said, I've dropped my banking stocks. He dropped banking stocks, he dropped airline stocks, and he's bought gold. So he's pretty much saying at this point that I don't see value in the U.S. stock market, in U.S. equities from here on out, so much so that I've decided to buy gold. He's invested in one of the major gold mining producers, because I see gold being a hedge against the inflation that is upcoming in the United States of America. He's not the only one that said it. Paul Tudor Jones was the first billionaire that's come out and said he's openly allocated 2% of his portfolio in Bitcoin and gold, and his reason being is because of the risk of inflation with the dollar. This is what everyone doesn't realize if you're watching.
Peter Schaaf too.
We haven't seen this in our lifetime. Our parents wouldn't have seen it. Our grandparents even wouldn't have seen it. They were babies when this had happened last time. Last time that this currency had switched, the reserve currency, was World War 1944 with the U.S. dollar. But even before that, there was a lot of changes.
Yeah, that was the last major change was when we actually got out of the gold standard, early 1970s, right? 71, and at the same time, 1971 was the year that the United States went to almost bankruptcy, or went into bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
They owed the United States owed I don't know how much to the Bank of England.
Yes.
So we went into bankruptcy, and we changed. We got out of the gold. We this is very interesting, right? We got off of gold, and we went into a fiat currency, and we were starting to pay back to England with paper currency, not gold-backed currency, for a reason. And then before that, right, 1940s, with the Bretton Woods, right, Accords and all of that, we had a different monetary policy. And every time, if you go back, the monetary policy gets better and better. As we move forward till now, it gets worse and worse and worse. And this is now we're seeing the repercussions of a terrible monetary system.
And it's a debt-based system.
Yeah,
it had to at some point. It's just basic math, right? At some point, debt-based economies, the credit is too much, the debt's too much.
That's terrible.
People default on debts.
That's terrible. That seems good until you have to pay it, or if you leverage something and it fails. You don't want, leverage is fun when everything's going great, but when it's not, it's the worst.
Yeah.
So, what is that? That's slavery.
Yeah.
It's slavery, because let me tell you what, the world, we are $250 trillion in debt in the world. Almost, 35 trillion is American-based debt.
Mm-hmm.
This is money owed to somebody. If somebody isn't paid, that means that somebody worked for free, which is slavery. I'm sorry. That's slavery.
Well, they say inflation is us stealing from our future selves, right?
That's exactly that. We took credit of from the future.
Yep.
We took credit, so that's why debt-based currency, which is what the dollar is a failure, and we're seeing it throughout the world. Look at Lebanon. Look at Venezuela. These are nations that are showing how bad it is when you have a debt-based currency. Mm-hmm. Just start printing like crazy.
And a lot of what we've been trying to teach is exactly that. So, some people will say, okay, Joe and Mike, like you've told us, since a while now that the dollar is going through what it's going through. We're changing currencies, reserve currencies. Mike and I have been trying to tell people that what you've seen on the news is trade war with China, but what it's really is going on around the world right now is a currency war. There's a race right now with competing world powers, and with that, competing currency systems, because the dollar is just inflating. Its value is going away. So that's why we've been trying to talk about gold, precious metals, but we feel more importantly, and I definitely feel this way, crypto.
Yeah,
Bitcoin and Monero. We're going to witness a wealth transfer. That's a fact. I think last year, some people could have doubted that this was going to happen. This year, it's fact at this point.
Well, right now we just saw the technocrats, right? We saw Jeff Bezos is almost at $200 billion. Mm-hmm. Mark Zuckerberg is almost at $100 billion. Bill Gates, almost at $100 billion. They, collectively have made about $400 billion off of the coronavirus and market collapse right now in this small period of time. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
$400 billion, where's that coming from? It's coming from somewhere. Mm-hmm. Someone's losing, they're gaining. Yeah. I'm all for entrepreneurship and wealth and all of that. But, we could see when the odds are against the majority. Mm-hmm. And it happens, and it goes through, technocrats. We have the plutocracy. We have all that going for us. So it's not fair. It's not fair. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking communist, words here. It's just not fair because it's not. The odds are against us because of the laws. The laws have been created against us. Mm-hmm. So we need to look for forms to protect ourselves. That's why the Second Amendment is there. The Second Amendment, obviously, we probably can't protect ourselves to standing militaries, but we could try, right?
Yep.
Things like that. We could try to protect ourselves from what we can. We have to protect our micro, environment.
Here's a pretty cool thought, and I heard this. So cryptocurrencies and digital currencies, especially decentralized ones, are protected under the Second Amendment as freedom of speech, right?
First Amendment.
First Amendment. Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. It's covered under the First Amendment. Why? Because someone had to write that code.
Yeah.
That code is an expression of words, which is an expression of speech, right? So therefore, we talk about like, will the U.S. ban any of these cryptos? They'll prevent you from trying to get it, but from what I understand, it's actually constitutionally protected. And there's lawyers that are waiting until there's that first lawsuit, because then they're going to file a lawsuit against freedom of speech. And the government can't come after anyone, because guess what? No one owns Bitcoin. No one owns Monero. So no government, no country, no one can stop this. No one can stop this. And thank God we have this, because if we didn't, and we didn't have a system and a new currency to roll over on when all this ends, I think the world would look absolutely chaotic. But we have hope that this transition is going to occur, and if you're on it early and you're understanding, you're staying open-minded, you're not listening to what you're hearing on the news, the mainstream TV, and you just follow us, we will help you transition into a new currency, a new economy, and you will benefit from this wealth transfer. You'll be looking at your kids 30 years from now, 40 years from now, and you'll be the grandparent or the father or the parent or the wife or whoever that bought the Amazon stock early. But it's more important than that, and that's what I think people are associating crypto with stocks. They're not.
They're not the same thing.
They're not the same thing. Like, you could continue to hold these as we go forward, and it's like, it is like digital gold.
It's an American problem. It's an American problem, more of a Western issue here, right? With that, people think that this is an investment, this is a stock, no. You have to take your brain, right, and allocate it in a place like Venezuela, in a place like Lebanon, places like that, and see, why a Bitcoin is important, and a Monero, and anything like that in those countries.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say we were in Mexico. Everyone, all our viewers, we were Mexican residents. We will always be looking at the value of the peso, because it goes down a lot or up, and it fluctuates. And why is it important? Because the purchasing power is less, right? So the dollar, it's always about the dollar.
Right.
As if I was Mexican, and same you guys, you would like to have currency in the dollar because it's worth way more.
Right.
Same thing with the British pound. As an American, when we go to London, we are always mad and worried. It's like, oh man, the dollar's worth so much less over there.
Yeah.
That's the same thing with crypto.
Yeah.
The crypto is worth so much more because there's so much more value behind it. So if there's an issue, let's say the dollar loses value, and remember, we do not produce much in America. Steel is usually controlled by China. They are the major steel producers. We don't produce steel in America. So anything that we purchase will have a high either tariff or, there's an inflation to it. So, look at bread, milk, bread could be $6, $7, $8. There's places around the States, like in Florida, milk is like $7, $6, while there's places in California where it's at $4. That's because of inflation.
And I think that's the hidden gem. That's what people just, keep in mind when you hear inflation, when you hear all these economic terms that confuse you. Inflation is plain and simple the creation of more money. The way that a currency should work is that you have a pot of that currency, right? So let's just say, for argument's sake, you have $100, and those 100 single dollars are all of the currency in the U.S. Typically with real hard money, there's a slow inflation to that. So gold, they dig some more gold out of the ground, they add it to the supply, right? But let's go back to the U.S. dollars real quick. If I gave you $1 out of that $100, the pot, and then next year I added $100 more to that pot, so now you had $1 out of $200, your value, your share just got diluted. It just went down in value. That's what inflation is. That's when you hear inflation is theft. It means that your savings account in dollars 10 years ago or last year is less value, relative value today, because during that time period, the Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank, printed or clicked the button and created trillions more dollars. And that's not how it typically works. This is the crony capitalism we've been talking about since the 70s. And all this is changing, though. And we're here to help you. That's what we do. That's our goal. Like, what we try to do is we work through the fluff and we teach you this. This way you don't have to. We understand that, like, not a lot of people, this isn't their passion or hobbies. This is for us. And so if you subscribe to us and you keep following along and you start moving and making action on some of the stuff we say, this will be beneficial for you going forward. One of the things I just want to do a quick plug, Mike, because I think our time's getting low here too, is you can subscribe to our newsletter, our free newsletter at thenonconformist.io. You can also subscribe to our paid newsletter at thenonconformist.io/subscribe. You'll see that on our website. Our paid newsletter gives people way more in-depth information. We give actual stock and gold stock picks. We teach you more about how to actually do this stuff, and we teach you all about cryptocurrencies, which ones to get into. We have a portfolio on there. So, you can get more information there. But we talked about the meme stuff too, Mike, and WowNarrow. So if you're interested, if you are someone that likes memes or you want to learn more about what WowNarrow is doing to make memes private and decentralized, you can go to wownarrow.org and learn about that. And then, of course, if you want to learn how to buy Monero, or you're interested about Monero as a cryptocurrency, we do have a website now, learnmonero.com, which you can go and learn how to buy Monero, how to sell Monero, how to use Monero.
Privacy coin.
And then the one exchange that I would recommend is Kraken.com, one of the most trusted exchanges here in the United States. We left a link to that in the comments section. You can just click through that, create a user account, and then go to learnmonero.com and just watch our tutorial videos, and then I walk you through exactly how to do it.
And all of those links are all in the Nonconformist website. So,
Yep.
If you need to go just to the Nonconformist website and go through all of our services, even, products or just old episodes, go right ahead, listen, share.
Definitely catch up.
Yeah,
a lot of this
catch up.
stuff we've been talking about. So.
Yeah, go back. We've been doing this for almost a year. It'll be a year in September.
It's crazy.
And we have been saying all of this was going to happen. Sure, we didn't talk about a pandemic per se, but when we talked about the markets, we've been following the markets slowly and always reporting on it and talking and dialoguing. And we've warned because we know what's going on, and it's not because we're like some wizards. No, it's because the information's out there. It's just so hard to go through because we are bombarded with information. So you need to really learn how to go through all of it and actually look from different point of view, play devil's advocate, and come out to some type of judgment. So that's what, this is our points of view. You guys might have your own points of view. We could always conversate. I've had people send me messages and comment. I like to, talk about these things. So just feel free and, we'll continue dialoguing.
Great. Well, that's going to be it for today. We had a great time. I'm sure you learned a lot. Hopefully you did. If you got any questions, DM us, hit us up.
Catch us on episode 35. Subscribe. Share.
Love y'all.